Hey everyone, welcome back to the Long Ways Podcast. And I'm Michael.
And I'm Eric.
And Eric's here with us today. We're missing Devin, who is on assignment elsewhere. We're not really sure where elsewhere is, but he's assigned there. So Eric and I are going to talk today a lot about photography. And if you've been following our website, okay, or our articles or our podcasts or any of the stuff we're doing on social media, you're going to see some pretty amazing pictures. And one thing I can tell you is the fact that I did not take any of those. And I'm sure we'll get into that at some point today about my amazing photography uh, abilities. But we're here really to talk with Eric. So Eric is my best friend in the world. We've hiked the entire world together, it seems now. And many times we've gone hiking, and Eric is usually carrying about a 50-pound pack of camera equipment with him. And so we're going to figure out what he's doing with that and some of the things he's excited about and some advice Eric may have to people who want to take photographs on these long trails. So first of all, Eric, obviously from the background, you're not in Iowa. So why don't you tell me where that picture is first to start?
Well, you asked me to grab a picture, and this is the first one I came across in Dropbox. It was in Montana, actually, on a family vacation. So anyone who travels with me knows that when I'm traveling, I like to get up early. I love sunsets and sunrises. So I sat on this porch in this Airbnb for 3 days straight for a break in the clouds in the morning, and I actually got one snap that was really, really good. So that's the sort of photographer I like to be. I see a potential, and I'll stalk it and until I finally get what I'm looking for. Pretty relentless.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit about the stalking thing when it comes to some birds and stuff in a few moments, okay? But yeah, I remember we were in Maggie Valley one time doing the same type of thing, and you must have plotted every morning out for the exact spot we had to look at, and then finally one morning we got an amazing set of sunrises. It was just absolutely gorgeous there for it, but several of the days it was very, very fleeting. So you're very patient when it comes to these, much more so than me. Walk out, click, click, thumb, camera backwards, all sorts of possibilities. So trail hiking, a little bit different, huh?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, especially in a group. You know, folks like to stop or don't stop. I like to stop and take pictures. And when you're on a time frame that's really kind of inconvenient for folks sometimes, but we've, I think, over the years come up with a process where it makes sense to stop every once in a while. We kind of feel out the day, see what it is, the more frequencies, less frequencies, that sort of thing. And sometimes I just say, "Oh, guys, I got to stop," and I never usually get any feedback,
Not for me.
negatively. Not from you, but um, sometimes I just got to stop. Sometimes I can't pass up a moment.
I love it because first of all, Devin is very much a fast hiker. Okay, he really is. He hikes very quickly, and I like taking our time, more. Okay, especially being a little bit older, and some of our trails tend to be straight up. Okay, so it's kind of nice to stop, and you're like, I need to take a picture here. Normally, what you hear is "Thank God" from me. Okay, my pack comes off, and I'm on the ground. you know, uh, I figure you're going to take the picture. It's going to look gorgeous. You don't need my input. I could just lay there and maybe die alongside the trail at that point and then get up and move on. But so, I mean, some of these trails, we are in some pretty rugged areas, to get some of these photos. And so why don't we just start with like, what do you carry? What do you carry, on these hikes? It's a little bit different than, car camping where you can, bring a ton of gear and set up and take a picture like you're sitting in Montana behind you.
It changed. It has changed a lot over the years as I've learned more. The early years, I took everything like wide angle, telephoto, like all the things, and you learn pretty quickly um, that you don't always need everything. Um, for example, like when you're in the jungle, you really don't need a wide angle lens. When you're on the coastline, like the picture in your background, you don't really need a telephoto lens. So, depending on where we're going, I'll be really cognizant about the lenses that I'm thinking about or contemplating taking with me. Do I need multiple wide angle lenses? Can I use one? To lessen the weight. What I've learned to do recently is take the tripod and hang it off the side of the pack, and then I actually pack my water bottle in the opposite side of my bag to sort of even out the weight on my back, and then I have one or two camera or lenses and the camera in the back of my pack. Um, that has worked out the best for me. It evens out my weight distribution, and I actually find that I can get away with maybe one lens, if not two,
Mhm.
on most of my hikes anymore, and that gives me room for snacks and everything else in my bag. And I've also learned how to use the water cover on my bag too,
I was going to
which
come to that. So.
which has come in very handy over the years. But definitely, you definitely want to have protection for your camera gear. And I also don't hike very often with my camera in my hand, um, just in case I would fall. There's a lot of times where there's scramble or whatever. But if you do decide to do that, always make sure that you have your lens caps on, because that's the first thing that can happen is your lens could get cracked on the ground, or even if you don't drop your camera, it could get hit. But I tend to not walk with my camera in my hand.
Yeah, I know we've had a lot of issues with water. Just so we tend to hike in places where either there is no water, or there is so much water that it's crazy, like Scotland. A couple other places we've hiked, even especially Scotland, but in Ireland as well. Just torrential rains and things like that. And I know you've got a pack which is water resistant, right? It's a
Yep.
ape. What's the name
Ape
of it
case.
again? Ape case, yeah. But you usually cover it up with a with another additional cover on it, right?
It's got a built-in one, which I learned about the hard way. But I also keep a Ziploc of Ziploc bags in my bag inside. So if it ever gets to the point where it is absolutely pouring or you can't get away from the water, I take the Ziploc bags and put my lenses and cameras inside of Ziplocs inside of my bag. So I've always got extra ones, and then I will always air out my case at night. I'll take everything out, make sure that it does get dried out. You
Yeah,
absolutely don't want any moisture inside of those electronics.
yeah. Because you've got a really nice camera, Canon, uh,
Yeah,
that you use.
I think this is my third Canon in a row. I use the 5D right now. Um, I've had really good luck with Canons over the years. I have not made the move to outside of DSLRs yet, the mirrorless cameras. Um, not because I don't want to. I just I really have so much invested in the pack I have now. It's really hard to make that move to a new set and start over with new lenses and everything. But the quality is really good with those cameras. But I can't complain with the quality that I have today.
So we're getting ready to go on a hike. You're planning this out and things like that. But then the days we're on the hike, I just want to kind of pick your brain. Hopefully the photographers who are listening, like, how do you know where you want to take a picture at? What is it? What's when you? I mean, when you're saying stop, often you'll take a picture of something, and then we'll be sitting back at the room later on, and you're seeing something in this area that I'm not. We're just hiking along. And don't get me wrong, the vistas are always fantastic, unless of course we're on the Dingle Way, and the highlight of our trip that time was the Three Sisters, right? And that was the day we could not see each other 6 feet in front of us on the trail. The rain was so bad, but most of the time, you're right. Your choices of these photo places, like the one sitting behind me, Isle of Skye. This is an amazing photo that you took. One of my favorites, just because the greens and the colors and things like that. And these are not filtered, as far as I can tell. This is what we saw. This is that fantastic. So this, like, when you're hiking, you kind of get in the mindset of one foot after the other. It's a long hike. We're going to do 100 miles. There's days that you don't want to hike, but you seem to find a way to, like, capture these crazy moments. So what are you thinking?
It's not really a science. It's like this in this particular moment that you're looking at here. That was the remnants of an old Scottish castle on the left hand side. And when I walked around that corner, just the way it was framed up in the light, I was like, this is the moment I want to capture. I just think when I'm on the trail, I'll see something that's like, oh, this is something that this is a story that I want to be able to tell, and it will tell itself in the picture, not in words. Like I feel like I see a moment, and I'm like, oh, I want to capture this, or I love the way that light is framed right now, like behind you, like it was very rare that day for us to see a sun beam
Mm.
shine through, and it was just a moment that the clouds broke, and I was like, oh, I this is something I got to capture. It's that's the spontaneous part. But then the one in my background is like, I know that this is going to be a good picture. Like I can
Mm.
see that this is going to be a good picture, and I'll wait for it. Sometimes it's spontaneous, sometimes it's very well premeditated. Where I know that there's going to be an opportunity here.
Yeah, like you like to call it, there's gonna be some drama, right?
I do like drama,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is, a lot of people will take a picture and it's a nice picture. Like there, there's some of the best pictures I've ever taken are not of a landscape. It's a memory with maybe a loved one or something like that. But um, just taking a picture of a blank sky or something, it's just it. You can add more depth to this. If you look at this particular picture, in your background, you've got a foreground, a midground, and a background. And the
Mhm.
background is that dramatic sky. You've got that beautiful field in the midground. You've got the sea, and then you've got up close in that old building that's been there for centuries. It's like there's so much in that story that your eyes tell you right away that that's an interesting photo.
Mhm. Yeah. There's so many that came from the Great Glenway trip, but the Isle of Skye was just it looked like it was going to be a crummy day, when we headed out that day. Because but like you said, the clouds and everything, and then the greenness, and then we have all these rock formations. They just every time we seem to have turned the corner, we had a private guide for this one, which I highly recommend, because we could stop anywhere we wanted to and avoid the big buses. He would tell us not to get out with the 3,000 tourists. We head up a little bit further to like this was one of those spots, but then just the views were just unbelievable and the colors were just crazy. Yeah. So we have done a lot of hikes together. So on these hikes, what would you say would be the best one for photography for that you
Oh,
found? And but also which one has pictures that you are like, this is like one of my best moments. This is something that I just absolutely
that's
love.
a totally impossible question to answer.
I know.
Um, I don't I don't have any favorite photos. I have standouts from every trip that we've taken, of course. It just when you think about taking photos, you just have to be, like I said, you have to be in the mindset that you are trying to tell a story that can't be. For example, if you were to tell a story about your trip, you're going to tell your friends about the highlights of your trip, and it's going to be very descriptive, and you're going to use words. I just do this opposite, or do the same thing with pictures. Like
Hmm.
take pictures of the moments that you want to share with other folks. And I'm lucky in the fact that I do have um, Lightroom for post processing. I spend the time to go through and edit my photos in Lightroom, and that gives me the opportunity to sort of put my signature on moments. Like
Hmm.
there are opportunities, like for the picture in your background, like that's how I saw that moment. And like you said, that's how you remember that moment. But
Hmm.
the raw photos don't always tell the same thing. And I'll be the first to admit that I never taken a photography class in my life. I don't know what every button on my camera does, and I don't think that you need to go into photography thinking that. There's enough tutorials online now that tell you how to use a camera, and a lot of the technology in cameras will do the work for you, to be
Hmm.
honest. Um, but if you're willing to spend a little bit of time in processing, you can even do this on your phone now. Like the apps on your phone can allow you um, to really make the photos your own. But you just take the pictures of the moments that are special to you. And I think when you put your personal touch on those, then people will see, you know, they'll see how important that moment was to you, and without words.
So, okay, so of the trails, right? I mean, we've done a lot of trails, right? I mean, some of them, uh, for example, the one when we did the Lycian Way, just in Turkey and things like that, there were some pretty interesting things there. Lots of times we were hiking through scrub forest, pine forest, and things like that. Yet the Dingle Way, for example, is very coastal. Do you like being mountains or coast? What do you like?
Again, I like to adapt. I'm always looking
Yeah,
for a special moment. Photographers usually depend on light, right? It's whatever the moment brings you. In that particular example, in your background, we had a break right then. Had that not been there, that photo might not have been as interesting. So, on the coast, one of the things I like to do is use the water to highlight the colors of the land. Right in Turkey, the turquoise was also
Mhm.
it was accentuated by the sort of rusty mineral color of the sand, and that red versus that green was just electric. Like, so
Yeah,
you learn to adapt your style to what the environment gives you. So I love the coast because it gives you such dramatic changes in colors. But to contrast that with Scotland, we it was a lot of gray. So I actually did a few black and white photos that I don't get to
yeah,
do a lot of. So I'm always adapting, and I think that's photography is an art, and you should think about it that way. You should think about how can I capture this moment and tell this story in a different way, like utilize what the environment's giving you to really make a dramatic photo. And I think that's the most fun for me. So I like the actual adaption of going from different landscapes because it challenges me, but it also gives me opportunity to do some stuff that I don't always get to do.
right. Yeah, and it really shows. I mean, the way you do capture some of these is, one of my big jokes is to sit. We sitting around the room that night or sitting around having a beer, and you're playing around on getting your photos ready, and I look over and I usually ask you a question like, "Where's that? Where did we do that at?" And you're like, you'll say something, and I'm looking at my phone like, "I was staying alongside of you, right? Well, I didn't see this. I'm the biologist, right? I mean, where I'm looking at storks and things like that. So, which brings me though, okay, to I know you love being a landscape photographer, but you have really done pretty well with wildlife too. I'm telling some stories about some wildlife and uh, your photos, your wildlife photos are on the covers of four of my books, right? Jaguars and crab spiders, okay, and obviously the storks of Portugal. So I want to go back to the storks of Portugal just to kind of because we've been talking a lot about the storks of Portugal and everything, but some of your photos of those storks are just absolutely amazing, and some of the things you were patient enough to capture, as we were hiking. So tell me about those storks.
Well, the storks is fun because along the coast of Turkey, we knew that storks were part of the environment, but those are not seabirds or shorebirds. To
Right.
be to be honest, it was a perplexing story for all of us. Like, we were trying to figure out why they were there, but they these storks are massive, and they create these massive nests on the shoreline. And again, with the dramatic colors of the stone, the granite, and the rest of the rocks there, and then the sea, and just the story of the birds. I get really focused on trying to tell a story,
Mhm.
and I'm really I like to be really into the moment and observe what's around me. I think that's one thing about long distance hiking that people lose sometimes. Like, you get to the fact that you have to hike 12 miles and you just get laser focused on head down marching 12 miles. And really, I really recommend that you take the time to put your head up and look around, question what's happening around you, like be in the moment, so you can see those things. This stuff is happening all around you. There's things every step of the way that you could be seeing. You just it's really really easy to get lost in the moment. And I just it's kind of a gift. I like to just really be immersed in the environment, when even when I'm hiking around my local trails. Some of those
Yeah.
pictures are taken on my local trails, like the crab spider. Like,
Yeah.
you just have to be aware of what's going on, and just be in the moment. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much to see. There's so much to learn about you. I mean, even the background that you see there in your the castle there, the ruins of that castle. There's moss and grass
Yes.
growing out of the rocks there. Like, question that. How did that get there?
Yeah.
Make that something that you talk about.
Yeah, we'll
There,
go back to the storks again. One of the things I've really found from one of your photographs is that we were wondering what they were doing out there, obviously, and there's no major predators. And I know we've talked a lot about this, but you took this one picture this one time. It was a zoom picture. Remember, it was like, and all of a sudden we were like looking at what it had in its mouth,
yeah,
right? And it was like a big bug, right? From the field behind us, or the
yeah,
fields, the agricultural fields behind us. And it's like they're not even, it dawned on us, they're not even fishing out there. So why are they out there? There's no predators, right? They're not eating fish, right? They're flying in and eating from the inland. And that began literally like another series of like 200 photos probably, okay, which ended up giving you the trail name the Storker for for the Portuguese trip, but more just trying to recapture this, and the conversations we have based upon literally one photo.
yeah,
We were in Belize and we saw a green toucan, okay, eating this red berry, right? And I don't know how long you and I stood there to try to figure out what he was doing with this berry, okay, and in the scalding heat, okay, of the jungle, trying to get a photo of, and you have these amazing photos of this, him darting in and out of the nest, right? And just the question that a photo generates and the discussions you and I have from it later on, I just think you're capturing a moment, but it's opening up all this curiosity. Like, why? Why is that like
yeah.
that?
And that's and exactly kind of the point I was trying to make earlier. Like, your picture should tell a story. Like,
Yeah,
it should be interesting. It should have depth. It should, just like you do with words. Like, pictures to me are my words. Ever
right.
since I was a kid, it's how I told a story, and it's just how I express myself. I love to tell a story with a picture and not necessarily with the words.
Yeah. So then let's just think about this, and what type of advice would you give somebody? They're getting ready to go out on a long trail hike, right? They're maybe they're backpacking it through, maybe they're site to site hiking it like we are, right? And and they want to do some photography, and yet they're gonna they're gonna do a weight cost ratio here of what they should do and everything. I mean, one of the nice things with the three of us hiking is that sometimes if we know we're gonna have a big photographic day where there's going to be a lot of great views, you can take more stuff and we transfer stuff over to Devin. Okay, we never transfer anything to me, right? I'm usually the one shedding stuff like crazy, you know, losing stuff like all over the place, anyways. But we can transfer some stuff over to Devin to do it. But if you're getting ready to go on one of these hikes, or maybe just solo hiking, you want to be a photographer, what would you say would be like the bare minimum equipment you should bring with you, right?
Yeah, it's really a personal decision. I think the technology in phones now is so impressive. Like, I don't necessarily think you need to go out and buy a big package camera. And I mean, if you're just getting into this, I don't know that that's completely necessary, and it adds a lot of weight. If you're not going to be able to, if you don't know how to use all those tools, it might not be the best move. But I think the no matter what you do, think about weatherproofing whatever you have, whether it's your
Mhm.
own cellular phone or it's a camera. They make really good covers for all that stuff now. And I know a lot of phones are water resistant to begin with, but have something that can protect your electronics either way.
Mhm.
If you are going to take a lot of photos and you want the best quality, maybe get a tripod of some sort. If you're going to do long exposures, I know some phones will do that now. The less vibration you can have in a photo, the better quality it's going to be no matter what. And that allows you to take some photos of yourself too. Some time lapse photos if you want to, get in some of the photos itself. Maybe a small tripod, something lightweight that you can use. Um, but if you are going to go down the big package camera, think about the environment you're going to be in. In that particular case, like in both photos in our backgrounds here, a wide angle lens. If you're going to be in wide open spaces, a wide angle lens makes a lot of sense. And you may only need one. It's probably
Mhm.
not necessary to have a whole bunch of them. And again, a nice tripod to help you with that as well. But in regards to the photos, think about that that layers, right? And you have a foreground, a midground, and a background. Like think about creating some depth with your photos, and then also telling that story. When I look at this photo here, like this is an old castle. You could tell the history in this picture because obviously the ruins, but you automatically get the view of, oh, the Vikings coming across that bay and what that might have looked like. Like it's telling a story without even knowing it.
Yeah. You have an amazing photo at the start of our calendar we built for the Great Glen Way of that wreck just outside of Fort William, right? And every time I show that picture to anybody, the conversations like where to come from. It's really an uninteresting wreck with a really interesting story. I mean, the wreck itself is just a boat that was abandoned. It's just all it is. But how it got there, right? And there was, it was just a boat. It wasn't really anything fantastic, but it has graffiti on it, and the way you captured that makes it look like a real. There's a whole certain story that happens with it, and I think it's pretty amazing the way you do that. We are getting ready to head to Bavaria next, okay, and I think we'll get some nice pictures uh, as we head towards the Alps this time. Hopefully, we're staying out of the Alps, okay, because they're really tall. But we're hiking on the King Ludwig Way coming up, so I take some more photos. So, anything else you want to share with anybody about photos in our little mini
Oh,
episode?
I would just say that you don't necessarily need to be a photographer to take
Mhm.
good photos. Just put the thought into it. Consider the whole story aspect of what you're actually taking, and I think it's a very personal thing. So there shouldn't be necessarily a stigma about a good picture versus a bad picture. It's just perspective, right? Find an interesting perspective. You're talking about the boat, you're talking about this background of yours right now. Like it's perspective. Had I scooted, 3 yards to the right and just took a picture of
Mhm.
the bay, that'd have been a nice picture. But adding some depth to it makes it's a different story. Like
Mhm.
think about your perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. And so what we're going to do here at In the Long Ways is we're going to mix things up a little bit. We've been encouraged to put some videos of our podcast up on our YouTube site. So on that place and also on our website, I'm going to be sharing some of these photos that Eric's been talking about just to get a chance to see them. And we have lots of photos up on our site as well. So if you have an interest in any of these, there'll be a link to contact Eric, okay, and ask him questions, okay, ask him anything about photography. We are starting an Ask Me Anything feature on the Long Ways where Devin will be handling like questions about the trails, logistics, things like that. So definitely reach out to us if you have questions about anything we're doing, equipment, photos themselves. If you'd like to get one of Eric's photos onto a metal plate, I have a metal, what do you call it, Eric? The metal frames, what do you call it? The metal piece, right? I have them all over my house, some pretty amazing ones from our travels, and the colors really pop on metal, just really gorgeous. So we are going to be doing some summer hiking this year, okay, both individually, okay, and hopefully get it together for a couple quick trips before our September long ways, okay, into Germany this year. So you'll be hearing more from us. Eric, any last words?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity. And like you said, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah,
Look forward to maybe seeing some submissions too. If you have a nice photo you want to send us, I'd
that'd
love
be
to see
great.
it.
Yeah, definitely. If you have some photos from some of the trails that we've hiked on or your own, definitely, or tag us on one of our social media, okay? And I'll make sure we'll make sure Eric gets to see it. We're on Facebook and YouTube, and we have not ventured into the TikTok world, but I have a feeling it's probably not too far away for us now. But Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are our three big ones. But so I'm going to wrap it up for today. On our next one, we'll be talking a bit more with Devin with an Ask Me Anything and talking about our Ask Me Anything campaign. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and fire those off to us through our website, and we will get to those in our next podcast coming up. So, Eric, thanks for joining us. Okay, and we will see you soon on the trail.
See ya.